Hey, bit of a random video today. As of the day of recording, today is May 28th, 2025, which is the 10th anniversary of the Splatoon franchise. Now, I know most people associate me as a fighting game player, namely DOA, but before fighting games, my main online competitive style game was Splatoon, and I have a lot of memories with this franchise. So, with today marking a decade since its first entry was released to the public, I thought I should record something where I share my thoughts and a history with the series. As such, this video is just mostly going to be me rambling. It's not completely scripted aside from a few parts and list of some points I want to mention. So, starting with the Splatoon 1 era, to be honest, I didn't think much of Splatoon when I first laid eyes on it. And I do remember my first encounter with the franchise, actually. At the time, I was really into Smash Bros, so it had pretty much taken over my YouTube feed. So at the time, I was watching a video, one of those top 10 vids where they would list characters that they wanted as DLC for Smash 4. Or it might have been a prediction video for who would have been DLC? I don't know. But the important part is, their number one pick were the Inklings. Remember, they specifically highlighted how it's Nintendo's newest franchise, so they're going to want to promote it. But I don't remember exactly what video it was. And while I would like to say that this is where my love of the series began, I was too deep into the Shantae for Smash train, so I was watching that video and looked at that part like, what the hell is this? Some weird squid thing shooting ink? This is dumb. Shantae would be so much cooler. Well, between the two of them, only one of them is playable in Ultimate, so who's laughing now, I guess? But over time, I began to hear it talked about by both some friends and some YouTubers I would watch. Namely, Zach Scott. I know he did a long playthrough of it, so I began to grow somewhat interested. In fact, I'm not sure what video it was, but on one of Zach's videos, you can look in the comments and find a comment from me, because I made a comment asking for some beginner tips, since I had heard that the game was not very well balanced for new players. And I remember someone specifically replied, "Avoid rollers like the plague." But so yeah, later that year I would receive Splatoon 1 as a Christmas gift. However, I also got Pikmin 2 and I ended up playing that more. So, at that point, I would only really play Splatoon, off and on. And I did play a few Splatfests. I believe I remembered playing the Transformers one, at least a little bit of it. But it wasn't a game that I played super often. But I'd still say I enjoyed it, just wasn't crazy hyperfixation at that point. And I think at one point I played it so little I even considered the possibility of selling it, which, well, considering where I am now, thank God I didn't do that. But the point where that all changed was when one of my childhood friends brought it up one day while we were talking in the middle of class. And I said, "Oh yeah, I have the game. I don't really play it super often, but I have it." So he invited me to play it. And so later that day, we would both hop on and did some Turf War matches. And that was when the hyperfixation began. What went from just being a game that I would only play occasionally became pretty much the only game I would play whenever I wasn't at school doing homework or watching something on YouTube. And even when I was watching something on YouTube, a lot of the time it would probably be Splatoon related. Yeah, needless to say, there were many more play sessions with that friend. As for the question of what was my first main, I am sorry to say I was a basic crack-on roller at the time. And unfortunately it gets worse. Because once I unlocked it, I played Aerospray. Yes, the gold one. So yeah, I was a bit of a meta slave, I suppose, back then. But, however, if you know me, you know what my true love in terms of Splatoon weapons is. And I remember the specific moment when I fell in love with it. It was during a Splat Zones match. I did just a random match where I tried out the Octobrush. And I ended up getting like 23 kills. And ever since then, it's been just my main weapon across all 3 games. And I remember I was like really happy when I saw that it was going to be usable in the Splatoon 2 story mode. But I'm jumping ahead now. Let's see, what's some other memories I have with the Splatoon 1 era? I remember the moment I first unlocked Ranked mode. I didn't read and thought it was still like a Turf War rule set. It was tower control. I don't know how I missed it, considering it tells you like 3 times before you start the game. But yeah. I just painted the ground for most of the match, and then suddenly the match ended. I was like, huh, that's weird. That's a lot shorter than it usually is. Oh, we've lost! But yeah, in terms of ranked modes, I think at the time my favorite was Splat Zones. Probably because it was the most familiar to Turf War, which I'd probably played for like 10 to 20 hours at that point. I'm not sure what the first Splatfest that I got to play was after that point. I do remember playing the Early Bird vs. Night Owls one, but I looked it up and that's the second to last Splatfest. And I would like to think I wasn't that late to the party, but I don't remember any of the previous ones. But of course, in terms of Splatfests, the most important one was Callie vs. Marie Splatfest, the final Splatfest. And I remember when it was announced that this was going to be the theme, I was struggling to make this decision. Because at the time, I pretty much just loved both equally. I think I ended up having to, look at, some posts that, compared their characters, their character traits, their pros and cons or something like that. And my final decision ended up being Marie. And I went all in on trying to make sure her team won. It was during summer when that Splatfest happened, so I played pretty much all day. And funnily enough, I remember the morning that the results came out. It was also a morning when my family was about to leave for a trip. So I pretty much just woke up, got dressed, got everything ready, and then before we left, I would turn on the game and just watch the results announcement. And I was so happy to see that Marie won. But even after the final Splatfest ended, I still continued to play constantly. Yeah, I used to say I was truly addicted at that point. At the time, I also had a friend in middle school a separate friend in middle school to the other person, to the person who initially introduced me to Splatoon, I suppose. I'd also play, pretty much, not exactly daily, but we played, very often. Anyways, now, moving on to the Splatoon 2 era. From the moment we had our first, glimpse of the game during the Switch reveal trailer, I think this is quite possibly the most hyped I had ever been for a game. I spent hours just daydreaming about things I wanted to see in the game, and trying to glean what I could from the, 3 seconds of footage that you would see in the Switch reveal trailer. One thing I specifically remember was I looked at the new design for the splatter shot, and I just thought it was I thought it was a new variant for some reason. I think the name I had for it was the Blueberry Splatter Shot or something like that. Which was probably based on the Blueberry Splatter Shot Pro that was in Splatoon 1, I think it was called. But yeah, that aged horribly. And when the day finally came for the full Switch presentation, I watched eagerly awaiting for Splatoon. And in fact, I had to take a shower in the middle of it since I had school the next day. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that that might be the quickest shower I have ever taken. And I happened to get out just in time for the trailer to start. My first time watching the Splatoon 2 reveal trailer was I was literally just wrapped in a towel. But yeah, for the next few months, I would rewatch this trailer and analysis videos about it constantly. And like the next day afterward, I would talk to the friend that I played it with at school, like just about everything that was shown off in that trailer. And we looked at some of the footage that was coming from the direct feed from the Switch, like, launch event. I think it had a specific name, I forgot what it was called. But whatever. And yeah, I was, like, obsessed with this game pre-launch. Like, I was that guy who looked up Splatoon 2 on YouTube and went sort by new, just to find every, like, millisecond of new footage. And yeah, leading up to launch, me and my friend that I played it with most often, we would discuss what we wanted to see constantly. And then, when the day finally came where Splatoon 2 would finally launch, my package didn't come until later that day, so I was going kind of crazy. In fact, I think there's like a screenshot on my Switch where I screenshotted like everyone on my friends list who was playing Splatoon 2. And I think I added the text like, that face when everyone's playing Splatoon 2 but your package hasn't arrived or something like that. I'll see if I can find it. And yeah, but eventually, later that day, it would finally arrive. And it was like literally moments before we would go to my grandparents' house for dinner. And in fact, when I say it arrived, it was more like I saw the mailman across the street and asked them if they had it. That's how insane I was going. But yeah, they did have it, so... the first time that I launched Splatoon 2 was in the back of my parents' car. And I even remember the exact street we were on too, as I saw the Nintendo Presents text come on screen. And, before we would actually eat dinner while it was still being prepared, I ended up playing half the story mode while we were at my grandparents' house, and I, like, finished the rest of it at home. But yeah, I've talked pretty much all about how insanely hyped I was before release. So, if you don't know me, you're probably asking the question, did your enthusiasm continue after release? Well, if you know me, you know that my playtime in this game is a bit of an inside joke because it's utterly ridiculous. As I say, never underestimate the power of a middle schooler with a hyperfixation. I think this is quite possibly the highest number of hours I've spent on one single game. I have some other games with pretty high total playtimes, like my DOA 6 playtime is probably over 1,000 hours if you combine all three platforms, but even that isn't even close to this. Yeah, without a doubt, the Splatoon 2 era was definitely the peak of my love for this franchise. So, during the Splatoon 2 era, I would manage to play every Splatfest that was released during its run. And, during that era, I would also meet a new friend group that I would play with almost nightly. Also, during that era, we would do a lot of, some silly mini-games and private battles as well. You do, you know, the typical, like, hide-and-seek, probably did some, like, deathmatch kind of things. And, we had this thing, I don't know if we had an actual name for it, but I want to call it, like, a Juggernaut mode. Because it was basically them all teaming up against me since I already had, like, well over 1,000 hours at that point, so they were like, alright, let's team up against the veteran, I suppose. And there's also another thing that I specifically remember was this like Western standoff kind of thing, where we would play the the good, the bad, and the ugly theme on a Discord music bot, and we'd make up these like stupid speeches before ending them with "Now draw your weapon." Unfortunately, I've forgotten like most of the stuff we came up with, and like the only one I can remember was one that my friend did, which it's probably better off not repeating. It wasn't like too bad, but like, yeah, that was certainly middle school humor. And during this era, I would even join a competitive team. It went by the name Divinity, which later on became Prism after some stuff happened. But yeah, this gave me a new group of people to play with and encouraged me to improve at the game. So I'm not gonna go into how Divinity ended, but during that era, I had a lot of like fun memories playing with some of the other members of the clan. And actually, fun little fact, one of my fellow teammates in both of that team's incarnations that I played with pretty often went by the name Q. And if that sounds familiar, yes, the very same Q from the team that went on to win the World Championship for Splatoon 3. Remember watching it happen live and feeling very proud at how far she had come. It's unfortunate considering how that team ended up, but last I heard Q was like the one that was innocent out of them, so at least there's a silver lining there. And of course, the Splatoon 2 era was also the start of me doing Splatoon content online. Early on, it was mostly just misheard lyric videos, a few clips, and some, thankfully, long gone or unreleased fanfics. And yeah, a bunch of pretty much anything you could think of, I probably did it. And of course, a major moment in the Splatoon 2 era was the announcement of Octo Expansion. As an enjoyer of Splatoon's single-player offerings, I was astronomically excited for this. Not to mention just the fact that we finally got to get Inklings as playable characters. Though, of course, that wasn't the only Splatoon-adjacent thing announced in that direct. But yeah, I remember being there ground zero for when they announced the release date for Octo Expansion. And that is still probably one of my favorite game reveals that I was able to watch live. Truly just one of those things that you kind of just had to be there to like fully appreciate how it happened. And of course, the Splatoon 2 era was also definitely the peak of my consumption of Splatoon YouTube content. I had already watched a few Splatoon YouTubers, like Dude, SRB2 Dude, Jmoji, CaliMacN were some early favorites. But when Splatoon 2 came out, the list of channels that I watched that did Splatoon content skyrocketed. And sadly, some of the YouTubers from that era aren't really around anymore. Some left due to personal reasons like GG Gabriel Gaming, Octoboy, Clash B Lizzie are some names that immediately come to mind for that. Unfortunately, not gonna name names, but there's sadly some who left on less honorable terms. And yeah, all those cases hurt a lot. There were some of my first times having to come to terms with the fact that, you know, the people we watch online, not always who we think they are. Oh, and of course, how could I forget? Splatoon 2 was the reason I even made a Twitter account because I needed a place to, like, dump my clips due to the Switch's storage space. Considering how Twitter is now, considering it's not even Twitter anymore, that is a bad thing looking back, but hey, the early years were fun. And like, I enjoyed getting to interact with the Splatoon community on sites like that. Now, admittedly, after the release of Smash Bros. Ultimate, I sort of fell out of Splatoon for a bit due to the hype of a new Smash game. But I still made sure to be there for the final Splatfest, Chaos versus Order. And this decision was much easier for me. I just went Team Chaos because that sounded much more interesting, and because Pearl is a silly little creature. Speaking of which, I don't think I really talked about Splatfest much to begin with, because they had they had this unique gimmick called Shifty Stations, where basically every single Splatfest would have its own exclusive stage. And a lot of the times they had unique mechanics that we still haven't seen like anywhere else in the series. Like, I really wish Splatoon 3 kind of carried that over for their Splatfest, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, since we're talking about Splatfests, a story that I also want to bring up, a bit of a funny little memory that I had from the Splatoon 2 era. When I was playing, one night when I was playing with one of my friends, I think it was just me and one other person in the call at the time. The announcement for a new Splatfest actually came on, and he managed to mash through the. He happened to mash through the news before I did, so I was like, "All right, you're gonna see it first, but don't tell me what it is. I wanna see it for myself." So so there I was, just clicking through the news, and then on the other end, I just hear my friend go, "Ew!" So, and then when I finally got to what the theme was, it was the toilet paper Splatfest. In case you're unaware, there was a Splatfest for, do you put your toilet paper facing the front or facing the back? Which is one of the most random ones that we've ever... Probably the most random Splatfest in Splatoon history, but it was definitely memorable, I'll give it that. But yeah, back to the final Splatfest. That was quite a fun, it was quite a fun thing to experience, and of course Team Chaos ended up winning. So yeah, I ended up going 2 for 2 on final Splatfest wins. Stay tuned for if I get to go 3 to 3. But yeah, after the final Splatfest ended, I pretty much took a very long break from Splatoon. By this point, I had already started playing Dead or Alive, and I fully fell into the fighting game rabbit hole soon after. But hey, as I always say, your hyperfixations never fully leave you. What you got for us?
It has to be BLT.
Not actual gameplay footage. Desert.
Wait, more Smash?
Oh! Is this... Oh! Wait, actually?
Splatoon 3! Splatoon 3! Let's go! Splatoon 3!
That's
Wait,
Look at it!
Wait, no, maybe it's DLC.
Oh, it's because of the Chaos! Chaos one.
It's Splatoon 3! Yeah, Chaos ending! Chaos ending!
This is Chaos!
Yo.
No way!
We're back, baby! Why is it a bow? Woo me! Woo me!
Let's go!
It should be
Character creation screen!
You have a pet?
My friend was... Little buddy!
You gonna play as them?
My friend was literally, screaming about how, she wanted Splatoon 3. And now she...
What is it, open world? Chaz and I were talking earlier about this, and we're like, yeah, there's no way they're gonna show Splatoon 3, cause, you know, too early.
Yeah.
Here we are! Is the logo gonna be yellow? Please let the logo be yellow. Oh, and Gopolis is fucked.
Oh!
Whoa!
Oh, that's fucking cool! That's so
wow!
Cool!
It's like industrial now.
I can't even process this!
They just made it China.
Oh
wow, I can't believe we're actually getting another Splatoon game. That's crazy.
I know it's the logo is yellow! I fucking called it!
Splatoon
I
3,
fucking
let's
called it!
That's where I've seen the logo already.
Gameplay? Gameplay?
Wait.
No, just the team.
Music?
Wait.
There is multiplayer.
What?
What?
What is this?
What
the heck, dude?
I want that
Yo, this looks so good.
The ball looks
No way, this is amazing!
Oh my god, I didn't think you could actually. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I love this remix already.
Cool!
Oh
What's
my
crazy?
god.
I didn't expect for us to get two Splatoon games
Suga,
at once.
win!
Wow, finally a different gameplay?
More than just turf war?
Ink Suga's
Back
back!
into the ink?
Back into
Back
the
in.
ink.
What?
Oh!
2022.
Next year,
Oh my-
shoot. That's a long time.
I was not ready for that!
Me
Man,
neither.
Dude, this was like Billy's direct. This was Billy's direct. Man.
This time, I got to watch the reveal of Splatoon 3 live with friends. Although, I don't think it was ever uploaded publicly because I usually edit my direct reactions and I just never got to it, so it was... I did upload like the full recording of our reaction to the direct, but because I never edited it together, it just kind of stayed private for like all eternity. But yeah, I still remember kind of how odd it was just seeing the reveal, since at that point I had kind of just assumed that Splatoon was going to be a once per console series, sort of like how Smash Bros. Is. But yeah, here it was, a brand new game. And then after the reveal, we just got nothing for over a year. It kind of felt like, here's a first look at the game, and then they just left for a year. They come back, here's some new gameplay, here's a teaser of the story mode. Hey, Salmon Run's back. By the way, it comes out in 3 months. But I mean, that's not to say that pre-release didn't have some highlights. I was very interested in the idea behind the story mode, titled Return of the Mammalians. Since, for those who are unaware, and if you are, I'm surprised you watched this far without playing the game. But in Splatoon lore, all mammals aside from an immortal cat and a clone of said immortal cat are dead. So, I was curious at the mention of their return. And of course, how could I talk about pre-release Splatoon 3 and not mention the absolute legend that we saw during the Splatoon 3 Direct? That is, Big Man! We stan Big Man, as I said. And also a funny little thing that happened during that Direct as well. They revealed a new weapon type called the Splatana, which was like a sword weapon. And funny thing, I had kind of conceptualized an idea for like an ink blade kind of weapon back in the day, although that was due to one of said unreleased fanfics, but yeah, seeing an official Splatoon sword weapon was kind of cool. And it was very different from how I imagined it. From what I had imagined was basically, it had like no way to ink except for killing enemies, but it would have like insanely fast movement speed. Needless to say, I think Splatana was a better a better implementation of that concept. Because yeah, that probably wouldn't have been super balanced. Yeah, we also can't forget to mention the Splatfest premiere. And this was well into the era of me doing streaming, so I happened to stream the first day of playing it. And the VOD might very well be the longest video that will ever be on my YouTube channel. And during this, a few highlights include my friend and fellow DWR co-host Johnny's first time playing Splatoon. I don't think he ended up getting the full game as far as I know, but he seemed to enjoy his time with it, so that was nice. And also during the session I realized that the Slosher is really good in Splatoon 3, and nowadays I think it's still one of my most played weapons. Oh, and of course, the moment that I just had to make a clip of was when I ran into my friend Edwin through random matchmaking. And I don't think that moment can ever be replicated. And the fact that I caught it on recording is just beautiful. Hey, wait a minute! Wait! Is that Edwin?
Billy!
So it is
Billy!
you!
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me!
No fucking way! No fucking way that's you! No fucking way! What the fuck?
Hello!
Please tell me you're recording this?
Yes, I'm still alive!
What are the odds? What the fuck are the odds?
But speaking of streams, on launch day, I would stream a collab with JJ, aka Half a Heart Gaming, a friend I met in the ARMS community, and still to this day, I think that's one of my personal favorite streams. It was just pure joy all the way through. I particularly love our blind reaction to the Mudmouths and Salmon Run.
I was afraid to tell you how I got the charge. Oh, I really hope this isn't Glowflies.
Mud mouth.
Yes, it's a very specific saying. What? What is this?
Oh, it's hideous! What do I do with it?
Go bomb. In its mouth.
Is that what you do?
Oh, into its mouth.
Oh
What
my god, that was horrifying! Oh, there's
There's another one.
Oh my god!
No,
oh.
tell me what goes on in your head to create this thing. Oh shoot.
Bro saw that stretched boo from Super Mario Bros. It's like, I'm gonna make that a boss!
Yeah.
But during that stream, some unexpected guests also made an appearance. Remember how I mentioned that during high school, I met a particular group of friends that I played with almost nightly? Well, one of them snuck into my lobby at one point of the stream. Then another, and then another. And soon after, we would rendezvous in our old Discord server for the first time in about 4 years to play Splatoon again, just like we did in high school. Looking back, I do feel a little bad for just leaving JJ. But it was a really nostalgic moment for me that I feel like only this game could have provided, at least in that sort of form. And also, I do have to talk about the story mode. I know that Return of the Mammalians is a bit controversial among Splatoon single-player enthusiasts, but my first playthrough of it felt magical. The first major highlight was probably the first, when you fight Octavio for the first boss fight, and they have a remix of his old theme. And sure, it's not quite as grandiose as the Splatoon 1 version, but hearing a new remix of it was really cool. And of course there was some new lore about the final remnants of humanity. Up until that point, humanity, the extinction of humanity had pretty much just been kind of like a background plot point. But here it was like a major part of the story and heavily tied into the main antagonist's backstory. Speaking of which, of course, another major part of the story mode was the reveal of Mr. Grizz's identity. I still remember when I first got to the cutscene where you first hear his voice, and just despite Splatoon's voice acting being literal gibberish, I still instantly recognized his voice. It probably says a lot in terms of how obsessively I played Splatoon 2, but, well, we've already established that. And yeah, I just remember getting to that point, as soon as I just heard his first voice, the first voice line of his, and I was just like, ain't no way, that's Mr. Grizz. There's no way that's Mr. Grizz. And then just confirms it at the end, is like, oh my god, we're finally here. Just remember the years of discussion about who he actually was. Is he I remember a lot of theories, they were like, is he a human? Is he an inkling? Is he an octoling? Is he Little Judd? Or is he an actual bear? And he was an actual bear. Which I know is not the answer some people wanted, but I can't deny that the final climb before the encounter, when you just hear him talking to Cuttlefish about his plan, it had this sense of tension, oh, this is it, we're seconds away from one of the biggest questions of the series being answered. And then we finally get into the boss fight. And look, I'm not gonna pretend that Splatoon story modes are cinematic masterpieces by any means, but the one thing I think they always manage to nail are the finales. Splatoon 1 was this massive battle across multiple platforms with the music growing more intense before the Calamari incantation kicks in. And Splatoon 2 was more closed in, but had corrupted remixes of Callie's theme, with Marie's theme sneaking in with Phase 2. And Phase 3 finally let you use the Rainmaker, which, up until that point, was only available in ranked matches to finish off Octavio. And I still remember, like, when I first saw the, like, Sheldon drone coming in, and it just drops, like, and just drops the Rainmaker on you, like, equipped Rainmaker. I was just so shocked at that, like, Rainmaker? I know I've seen some, like, other reactions to that boss fight. And, yeah, I was not alone in my surprise. Moving on, Octo Expansion was a race to cover up Tartar's statue before time ran out, and he could fire a laser to destroy Inkopolis, which led to a Dragon Ball-style beam clash between him and Pearl, who just screamed into a killer whale. And Splatoon 3, you ride a shark into space, fight a giant bear on a rocket, which leads to your pet fish growing to a gargantuan size to have a kaiju fight with them, while the main antagonist of the previous two games pilots you around to vacuum sacks of fuzzy ooze off of Grizz's body, and fire them back at him as a giant laser. That's just such an insane concept for a final boss fight. And I remember when I described this to my friend who doesn't play Splatoon, his first question was, so how much LSD did they take for this one? And the credits theme, yes, I know everyone jokes about how Splatoon music sounds like a drowning child, and I'm not gonna say that they're wrong entirely, but remember when the Calamari incantation motif like kicked in during Wave Goodbye? That kind of hit hard. I know I've heard a lot of people say that like the vocals during that part sound a lot more human compared to like the usual like Inkling / Octoling vocals. Now some people have the interpretation that that's like, you know, all the fans singing Calamari Incantation one last time. But yeah, I know I will admit Return of the Mammalians isn't the most replayable single player that Splatoon's ever had, but the first playthrough was absolutely incredible for me. Now, despite all the glazing I've done in the past few minutes, Splatoon 3 is the game that I have the least amount of hours in for the series. And yes, a big part of that is just the fact that, you know, now I'm older. I'm a busier college student now rather than a early high schooler with what felt like infinite free time, and the time that I'm not spending on class, career preparation, or personal projects. I'm spending either resting or on other games. But I cannot deny that there is a lot to be frustrated with in Splatoon 3. One thing that I can definitely say is, back in the day I played Splatoon daily because I wanted to, but because of the time-limited content in Splatoon 3, or you get a daily win bonus for your first win of the day, which would basically give you a free level up on the catalog. So it would just make me log in because I felt like I had to, because I didn't want to miss out on the new content. And even then, like, even with me doing that, I think I ended up missing a few of the catalog stuff. Like, I think the second catalog, like the Season 2 catalog, I think I didn't quite finish that one. So yeah, I'm not even sure what was in that catalog. And of course, like, I know, ProChar has kind of ran this topic into the ground at this point, but it cannot be stressed that the stages in Splatoon 3 were very lackluster compared to previous games. Like, even as someone who doesn't really play competitive anymore, even I felt like that the stages in 3 were just super basic. And like, compared to the stages in 2 and 1, where you had like a lot of places that you could move and like flank your opponents, like sneak around them. Especially as an Octobrush main where I have to get close. Yeah, the stages just felt very, very locked in and like linear, I suppose. And in terms of the new weapons that would be released, some of them were a bit underwhelming. personally, as I said, I like the Splatana a lot, but the Stringer, despite being the flagship weapon of Splatoon 3, I personally didn't really enjoy it a lot. More power to the people who do like it, but just something about it, like, aside from the... Like, I played the Reflux quite a bit, but, like, aside from that, I have, like, no playtime on, like, the other Stringers. And on top of that, the new variants of existing weapon classes were kind of hit or miss. I personally had fun with some of them, like, I liked the Paintbrush and I was one of the, like, 3 Splattershot Nova fans. But, I mean, eventually I would just go back to the stuff I always played. And of course, during Splatoon 3's update cycle, there were quite a few controversial moments. And I'm not just talking about, you know, some people thinking that seasons didn't have enough content added. But, like, on top of all that, there was also the release of a particular special weapon known as the Splatter Screen, which, well, I just thought it sucked. Because what it did was, it would, you would throw it out and any enemy caught in it would have their screen basically turn black and white. And I think there was like a sound effect as well. Like a staticky sound effect. Anyway, the idea was that it would make it harder for you to tell what's your ink and what's enemy ink. And what's a teammate and who's not a teammate, stuff like that. But, like, for me, I just thought it was... I still thought it was, like, too easy to tell the difference. But, other than that, it also turned out to be really bad for players with sensory issues. So, it just made the game, like, genuinely unplayable for some people. And I remember, like, some streamers even banned it in their lobbies, I saw. And I know over the course of the game's patch cycle, they did fix it up a little bit, but I think I still hear that... that's still not great for people with sensory issues. And yeah, just on top of that, just for me personally, I just thought the seasonal model was a little too long for me. But that might also just be me being spoiled by how in previous games you pretty much got a new weapon every single week, which, considering that at launch Splatoon 3 had every weapon in the series aside from like Dual Sculpture, which is still locked to Splatoon 1. But I felt like I think it was a 3-month cycle was a bit too long for me for some seasons that just didn't have a lot of content when they finally came out. But despite all those complaints, I have to say, I think in terms of base mechanics, I think Splatoon 3 is still the best game in the series so far. I think the squid roll is really fun, and I've seen some incredible movement pulled off by some high-level players. And Squid Surge, its use cases is rare, but the moments when it shines are pretty good. And I would rather have it than not have it in Splatoon 4. And I can definitely say that I think probably my dream Splatoon game would be Splatoon 1 or 2 style stages with Splatoon 3 mechanics. But of course, in the middle of the Splatoon 3 era was the revival of Splatoon 1 and later its final shutdown. For those who may be unaware, for like a year and a half, Splatoon 1, still on the Wii U, was basically in an indefinite hiatus, and actually I think every Wii U game kind of had that. Because there was like an exploit that people would do where they could like hack into your gamepad's like front-facing camera and like spy on you or something like that. It's been a long time, so I don't remember the specifics, but it was something along those lines. So, pretty much every, like, first-party Wii U game was, like, had their servers basically on an indefinite hiatus. For, like, a year and a half, I think it was. But then, randomly, at one point, they finished they finished fixing the issue, I guess, and all those games went back online, including Splatoon 1. So a lot of veterans, such as myself, were able to go back to the game and start it all, which was very nice for me to revisit the first game. And of course, with the Splatoon 1 revival era, I also ended up starting what I have nicknamed the Inkay Trilogy, which was a series of sort of montages that I did, which... Okay, the first two were coincidental, the third one was a choice. Were Splatoon 1 montages that all used music from the one gacha game that I like, Nikkei Goddess of Victory. And for the final entry of it before the servers would finally shut down, I ended up holding a community montage, which got quite a bit more submissions than I expected. And I'd still say that that's probably one of my best contributions to the Splatoon community. But yeah, also after it was announced to be shutting down, naturally I know a lot of people like hopped on to try and make the most of what time they had left with the game. And a little funny moment that happened during this was at one point I saw a VTuber like who was streaming Splatoon 1. And this happened like early morning, so like I hadn't had to go to class yet at that point. And so I was like watching them for a bit like while I was eating, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna hop on Splatoon 1 as well. So, and I think you can kind of guess where that went, so yeah, that's the story of how I accidentally stream sniped a VTuber. I'm not gonna name drop who it was, but yeah. Bit of a funny little moment. But yeah, unfortunately when the day finally came, I think it was in early April of last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there for like the final few hours, because I had a class at the same time. But I remember watching SRB2 Dude's like final stream of it, or, well, Dude as he just goes by now. I remember watching Dude's final stream of it, where he was one of the people that like managed to stay on for like few hours after the official shutdown date. So yeah, that was very cool to watch. And luckily, I know for those who still want to play Splatoon 1, there is a private server known as Pretendo, and I did get to play on that for a little bit, but because there was an easy method that they kind of had where you just needed to like change like something in like the Wi-Fi settings, and it would like let you like get onto like transfer you to the private server or something like that. But eventually that method got disabled and I just never did the longer method, so yeah, I just haven't gotten to play it ever since. But moving back to Splatoon 3, of course there was the release of Side Order. And I know a lot of people think that, or a lot of people feel that the final product was a bit of a letdown from the teaser trailer that we got, and I can't say that they're entirely wrong in having that feeling, but I still think that it was a very fun mode, and I still hop into it every now and then. I think definitely an early highlight for me was how the like tutorial is basically like the prologue, where you climb up the tower for the first time, and when you reach stage 10, you find Marina just like brainwashed and like hooked up to this like weird like goo thing. I forgot what it was. And that was like kind of a bit of a highlight for me, because I know like one of the biggest questions was like, where is Marina? Because they're kind of building up that she was hidden. Although, looking back now, they kind of got a little sneaky with it, considering that they, there's, in one of the trailers, they just, like, zoomed in and, like, cropped Marina out of the like, upgrade shop. So, yeah, they got a little sneaky with that one, so that was kind of funny. And I remember when it first came out, on the day or night of, I actually managed to get to the final boss, pretty early on, but I ended up dying before I was able to finish it. So, but on my second day, on the day after, I was able to fully finish it. And I just have to say, during the Splatoon 2 era, one of my favorite songs in the game was Ebb and Flow. It's I still remember, the moment that, the vocals kick in, and it was just oh my god, it's a new Ebb and Flow remix. I was so, happy at that. And yeah, I think on that, day, I think at that point, even, before I, played through, or even before I, returned to multiplayer, I ended up, going through the entirety of, all the palettes, all the weapon types. So yeah, I was one of those guys that 1000%ed side order immediately. Which, speaking of which, I just realized I never brought that up. Yeah, I also 1000%ed Splatoon 2 story mode. Was it worth it? Probably not, but hey, I have it. But yeah, going back to Splatoon 3. Of course, the day finally came for the final Splatfest for Splatoon 3. And the venue for it was really cool. We see all three idol groups from the previous games, all performing together. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I know a lot of people like me who were also with the series from the start teared up a little bit with when hearing Three Wishes. And first off, it's just kind of insane that that's one of the few Splatoon songs that we have an English translation of. But yeah, I know some other people said this as well, how the lyrics of it felt like a love letter to everyone who had been with the series for the past, decade. Or it wasn't a decade at that point yet, but you know. But yeah, for the final Splatfest, I would once again stream with JJ. So I left the choice for team up to him, because I didn't really have an opinion. And we ended up joining Team Present, which was... Oh yeah, the theme was Team Past, Team Present, or Team Future, with the idols of Splatoon 1, 2, and 3 representing each team. And yeah, I remember during that stream, I think me and JJ just talked a lot about how what we thought of just the game overall. And yeah. Yeah, unfortunately this one of the major highlights of Final Fest was, or Grand Fest I think it was called, was when the exclusive Tricolor Battle. Oh yeah, I never talked about Tricolor Battle, hold on! Actually, I haven't talked about Splatoon 3 Splatfest in general. Yeah, so they had 3 teams now, as I kind of briefly mentioned, with the past, present, future theme. Yeah, 3 teams because Splatoon 3, and also a new mode called Tricolor Battle. And first I just have to say, and I know I'm not alone in this, I feel like the themes for Splatfest in this game were very lackluster. Nothing as, genuinely bad as, the toilet paper or the, pulp versus no pulp Splatfest in Splatoon 2, but I'd argue they were a bit worse considering a lot of them were just boring. At least those ones were memorable. But yeah. And in regard to Tricolor Battle, I know a lot of people didn't really like it, but I personally really like the idea of Tricolor. Because, in shooters, I've pretty much always been more of a free-for-all kind of player. I had a bit of a Halo phase a few years ago, and I mainly played free-for-all. And since Tricolor Battle is a battle between all 3 teams, I felt like that was probably the closest that we'll ever get to having a FFA mode in Splatoon. I think the main fatal flaw of Tricolor mode was just that a lot of the stages kind of just sucked for it. But anyways, back to the talk about the Final Fest. Or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. At the halfway point of of Grand Fest. The exclusive Tricolor Battle stage for that fest finally unlocked. And for those who didn't get to play it, they had an exclusive song just for that mode. And it was what previously was only something that happened once per game, but they had a new remix of Calamari Incantation, which was called Rainbow Incantation, I believe. Which was actually a bit of like a medley between Calamari Incantation, Color Pulse, which was Off the Hook's theme in 2, and oh my god, what was it called? The Slapfest Plaza theme in Splatoon 3, which is my favorite Slapfest lobby theme. Why is the name escaping me right now? But whatever. But yeah, like as soon as the first match started, I just heard like Calamari Incantation start to play. That also made me tear up a bit. Although I'm a little glad I didn't get the team pass variation, because I think for the first match that I had, it was like kind of a draw, so no team was winning, so it just played like the general version. But like for whatever team is winning, they had a variation, or the like 1 minute left theme would be changed to a song associated with that team. So like for example, if Present was winning, then it would be a remix of Ebb and Flow, and I think it had a little bit of Spectrum Obligato, whatever it's called. And if Team Future was winning, then it would be a song from Deep Cut, which is probably going to be something that appears in Splatoon 3 because Splatoon 4, considering it's a song that doesn't actually exist. So some people made the joke of they're singing a song that's not even out yet. It truly is Team Future or something like that. But yeah, I'm a little glad I didn't get the team pass variation for my first playthrough, or for my first match, because if I heard City of Color after Calamari Incantation, I might have troubled the dust right there. But yeah, but eventually, of course, the end finally came. And I am sorry to say that after 2 games, my streak of winning the final Splatfest was finally broken, because I think it was Team Pass that one. So yeah, I know a lot of people hold the opinion that Splatoon 3 was kind of screwed over by lockdown. And I know a lot of people think that Splatoon 3 should have just been saved for the Switch too, but looking back on it, I am happy that it existed. Because it led to a lot of like fun moments that I don't think could have been replicated in if it was saved for a new console. But yeah, I suppose that's a basic summary of my history of the series. May not have been with it from the very beginning like some other people, but it's been a huge part of my life ever since that day in middle school. And even though my days of clocking over 3,000 hours into the game are long gone, I can still definitely say that this is a very special franchise to me. I have so many memories just attached to this silly Squid game. I think it's one of those games where I know everyone has like that one game or like show or whatever that just like reminds them of simpler times or brings them back to their childhood. And for me, Splatoon is the main game that fills that spot. I suppose Pikmin would be a close second, but being a mostly single-player game, don't have nearly as many like community-focused memories with it compared to Splatoon. Yeah, over these past few years, I've made new friends, lost contact with some, finished high school, went through half of college. I'm an entirely different person when I was back when all we had was just Splatoon 1. Like, for example, the idea of me driving wasn't even a concept to me back then. Now it feels like I've been doing it forever, even though it's only been a few years. But yeah, now I'm just going off topic. And yeah, I should probably just end it here at this point. I'll probably cut it down a little bit, but this recording is over an hour at this point. But yeah, so as I wrote for my Discord status today, even though I'm no longer a kid, I'll forever be a squid. A bit cheesy, but hey, you get the sentiment. No matter how old I get, every time a new Splatoon game releases, I'll always try to set aside some time for it. So, if you watched this far, thank you for bearing with my ramblings. And, as always, thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Farewell. Also, if you watched this far, and this is the first thing you've ever seen from me, I'm doing a fighting game charity stream on June 7th. It would be cool if you came by and, like, donated a little bit, or even just watch. Okay, thanks, bye.